power function of degree n is a monomial, which means that it's a polynomial with only one term, in the form f at x is equal to some coefficient on x that is raised to the nth power. That coefficient a needs to be a non-zero real number, and the exponent has to be a positive integer. In this first example, we're going to graph a few power functions on the Cartesian plane and identify some similarities between them. We'll start with the familiar graph y is equal to x squared. This is a parabola that's opening up that has points of interest at 0, 0, 1, 1, and negative 1, 1, and the graph is a parabola opening up. Now let's graph y is equal to x to the fourth power. X to the fourth power is going to have the same points of interest. When we plug in x is equal to 1, we get y is equal to 1. X is equal to 0 yields y is equal to 0. X is equal to negative 1 quantity fourth, also positive 1. Now the difference between x squared and x to the fourth is that x to the fourth is going to be a steeper graph and have a little bit more boxy shape in here. So we're having a little bit boxier shape in here, passing through the same point of interest, but then the walls are a little steeper, meaning that the function is growing a little bit faster on x to the fourth power. If we look at y is equal to x to the sixth, we can see this pattern accentuating. The walls are even steeper. We have the same points of interest. The graph is even boxier down here, but because it's a polynomial, it can't have a sharp corner. So it has to be rounded off in the bottom there, no sharp corners, but it becomes increasingly boxy down at that minimum. We see something similar happening in the x cubed, x to the fifth, and x to the seventh graphs. X cubed is a graph that I've referred to as being vertical snake, again with the points of interest 0, 0, 1, 1, and this time negative 1, negative 1. If we graph y is equal to x to the fifth, it'll have the same 3 points of interest, but the graph is going to be a little boxier down here and a little steeper on that vertical wall. And then when we look at y is equal to x to the seventh, we see that same pattern getting a little more severe. Boxier, steeper. These walls are not completely vertical. These are polynomial functions, which means they have to pass the vertical line test, but they are getting much, much steeper as the power increases. The pattern that we want to notice here is that with the power functions, where the degree is even, which are these graphs over here, the end behavior, which essentially is describing what happens at the tails. The end behavior is going to go up to the left and up to the right. So on the left-hand side, the function is going up, and on the right-hand side, the function is going up. This is considered to be the end behavior. And with the power functions that have an odd degree, their end behavior was down on the left and up on the right. All of these graphs have tails pointing down in the third quadrant, and in the first quadrant, they're all going up. Now we're going to use that pattern to make some overall predictions about what the graph of a more complicated polynomial might do as x gets infinitely large, meaning essentially we're going to talk about the end behavior. And in this example, we're asked to find the power function that f resembles at infinitely large values of x. Before we begin, let's make sure we understand the question. X is infinitely large out here and out here. Remember, a power function is a monomial, so we're looking for some power function with one term that this graph begins to resemble out at these x is equal to infinity tails. Basically, what is the end behavior of this graph? What are the tails of this function doing? In order to process this question, we're going to have a short theoretical conversation here, and we're going to envision what would happen if we plugged in infinity for x. That would tell us what's going on out when x is infinitely large. And we'll focus on plugging infinity in for this first x. When I'm plugging in infinity here, we get negative 4 times infinity, and then to that we add 1. And what this quantity then becomes is something that is really, really close to just the negative 4x. Adding 1 to negative 4 times infinity contributes a negligible amount. And so negative 4x plus 1 with infinity plugged in is almost the same thing as just negative 4x. Now let's roll another term into this and look at these last 3 terms, plugging infinity in for the x's. When we plug infinity into x and then square it, That quantity is so much bigger than infinity to the first power that the contribution of this term becomes insignificant. The bigger and bigger our x is, these three terms together look more and more like just the 12x squared. This 12x squared term dominates the output because of how much larger it is than the other two. I think it's pretty easy to see that 1 is pretty insignificant when we're plugging in infinity. It contributes almost nothing to the output, but the larger x gets, this also becomes insignificant. And the output is dominated by the 12x squared term. And perhaps you're starting to see a pattern emerge that when we plug in infinity here, infinity cubed is so much bigger than infinity squared and infinity to the first power that it dominates the output of these four terms. As x gets infinitely large, 1 contributes a negligible amount to the output, and these terms are big, but infinity cubed is so much bigger than them that it dominates the output of this sum. So these terms added together begin to look more and more like negative 1/2 x to the cubed power. And finally, we're ready to talk about the leading term. When x is infinitely large, this leading term dominates the output of the function. And when x's are infinitely large out here, our function f, while it's not exactly the same as the power function negative 7x to the fourth power, the tails begin to look like the tails of this power function. Let's process that statement on a graph one more time. The power function negative 7x to the fourth is going to be a vertical flip on the x to the fourth graph, stretched out by a factor of 7. So our y is equal to negative 7x to the fourth graph is somewhat boxy near the maximum with no sharp corners, and it opens down. This graph is going to have end behavior that is similar. When x is infinitely large, our graph f ends or finishes in the same region as the power function negative 7x to the fourth power. Now obviously these two functions are not exactly the same, and they're very different here in the middle. The polynomial might bounce around in here, but ultimately when x is infinitely large, it's going to finish in the same quadrants as this power function. In summary, the power function that f resembles at infinitely large values of x is going to be determined by simply the leading term. Y is equal to the leading term will be the power function that our graph resembles when x gets infinitely large. Let's see one more example, but we'll move through this one a lot quicker. The power function that g resembles at infinitely large values of x is going to be y is equal to simply the leading term. So all we have to do is figure out what the leading term here is going to be. Well, this is a polynomial in its factored form, so we have to envision what the leading term is going to be once it's all multiplied out. But we don't have to multiply this out completely to be able to see what the leading term is going to be. When this quadratic is FOILed out, its leading term is going to be x squared, but we'll not focus on the rest. When we multiply out x minus 1 raised to the fourth power, its leading term is going to be x to the fourth, and the rest would then need to be calculated. When x plus 1 to the fifth power is multiplied out, its leading term is going to be x to the fifth, plus the rest would need to be calculated. And then, of course, we still have the minus 2 multiplier here on the front. When these two polynomials are multiplied together, the leading term is going to be x to the sixth, plus the rest would need to be multiplied. And that's because x to the fourth times x squared is x to the sixth. That would be the first thing that we multiply together. And for right now, let's just bring the rest of these down so that we can see when we multiply these together, our leading term will be x to the 11th, because that first multiplication is x to the fifth times x to the sixth. But we still have our negative 2 multiplier here on the front. So now we can see that that leading term is going to be negative 2x to the 11th power, followed by a lot of other terms. But we only need the leading term in order to be able to determine the power function that our polynomial resembles at infinitely large values of x. So while g of x is not exactly equal to y is equal to negative 2x to the 11th, they do have a similar end behavior. The tails of these two functions are going to end in the same quadrants. And we'll just say that one more time using a concept drawing. Negative 2x to the 11th power is an odd degree monomial, which means that the end behavior is going to be split. Negative 2x to the 11th is going to go up to the left and down to the right, essentially after experiencing a vertical flip and a vertical stretch by a factor of 2. This graph should be very steep and pretty boxy near the origin. Now the graph of g is going to have similar end behavior. Out at the infinitely large values of x, the tails are pretty close to the tails of this power function. Now when x is small, that's where we get a lot of difference. We don't know what's happening here in the center. But once those x's get infinitely large, the tails are going to resemble this power function.